We did it, ladies and gentlemen. Rose Namajunas got us back on the win streak after losing main event after main event, picking the wrong person. I finally got the right person by just picking Rose Namajunas. Well, she'll usually win, so it's a pretty easy pick. But tonight was actually a pretty good fight night. Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas put on kind of a boring fight, but it was still entertaining. Rose was just a cleaner striker on the feet, landing pretty good shots, also using good grappling. Two out of the three judges gave Amanda Ribas only one round, and I assume that's round number 3 where Ribas took Rose's back and was kind of threatening some submissions. Let me see if I can find that. So yeah, Ribas took her down, and then actually Rose won round number 3. It was round number 4, I believe, where Ribas took her back. I don't know. She's threatening a choke. Rose was maybe it was round 2. Was that the round where she got her back? But it was a pretty good fight, like a back and forth affair. Rose, you can see she had a lot of top control, a lot of holding Ribas up against the cage, and just the cleaner striking, just landing. Okay, it was round 3, so I was right. It was round 3 when Ribas took Rose's back, and she was never really threatening in a choke, but, you know, back take, you got to reward that with judging, and it was a close round, so that kind of back take solidified it. Also, Ribas did get a pretty good arm and hip throw here. There it is. And then she gets her down and starts landing punches, and then eventually takes her back. So that was the round. So 2 out of the 3 judges gave it 49-46 Rose. So I think this was kind of the moment that Rose lost the one round. And then the other judge gave a 48-47. I'm not exactly sure what other round he gave to Ribas. Maybe round 4, because Ribas was landing elbows. Rose didn't do a whole lot in that round, just stayed on her guard. So anyway, Rose is she's on the winning track again. She moved up to flyweight, so I think that it is noticeable that, like, she's fighting bigger opponents. She's wrestling more, even though she was wrestling at strawweight against Zhang Wei Li. But it just doesn't seem like she kind of has the same power that she did at strawweight, at flyweight. Definitely just fighting bigger, stronger opponents. But she did a good job. So she called out for Macy Barber, Manon Farrow, or Erin Blanchfield. So I don't think she's going to beat either of those women. All 3 of them are super physical, and it's hard for me to see Rose Namajunas kind of competing with them. Like, she almost got out-physicaled by Amanda Ribas, even though she had a vast skill discrepancy against Ribas in this fight. But it was a fun night of fights, some crazy stuff. So let's just run through the card. Mick Parkin, he beat Kamaru Usman's brother, who now has 3 losses in the UFC. Mick Parkin is looking pretty good. He trains with Tom Aspinall in, like, that heavyweight gym that they have over there in Britain. He's good. He's won like 3 decisions in the UFC in a row, so he's beating these unranked heavyweights, which, I guess that's all you can really ask for with heavyweights. Funny fight happened in this flyweight fight. So I think both these guys were coming off of the Contender Series, and Igor da Silva bit Andre Lima, and so he got disqualified. There's like a bite mark that you can see. That was crazy. I need to go back and find that because that's hilarious. I didn't watch this fight. I caught the tail end of this fight, and again, like, this is what I don't like the UFC becoming. It's just these guys coming off of the Contender Series just fighting each other, and both of them are shitty. They're not really gonna go anywhere. Like, John Aarons was barely able to beat Steven Nguyen, and it was just 2 exhausted guys punching each other back and forth until the final bell rang, and then a guy wins the decision. So I wouldn't really keep my eye on Jarno Aarons too much. Like, he didn't look anything that special. Miles John's decisions against Cody Gibson, who was kicked out of the UFC and then he came back through the Ultimate Fighter. Miles Johns is a pretty good fighter. Like, he has really good skills. He's got good wrestling, good power at bantamweight. The only issue is he has pretty much no gas tank. Yeah, he just gets really tired out as the fight goes on, but his wrestling was enough to win all 3 rounds against Cody Gibson here. Really fun fight with Ricardo Ramos for taking on Julian Erosa. Ramos rocks Julian hard, like 10 seconds into the fight, takes Julian down, is landing ground pound. Julian gets up, he lands an uppercut on Ramos, then Ramos goes in for a takedown on him, and he guillotines him, which is funny because Ricardo Ramos got guillotined in his last fight too. Let's take a look at his recent record. So against Julian Erosa, it's a guillotine. Against Charles Jourdain, it doesn't say what kind of guillotine it was. Let's go to the Tapology. Yeah, against Charles Jourdain, it was also a guillotine. So these guys are just going to be like sniping guillotines on Ricardo Ramos, and I guess he doesn't know how to defend against guillotines. Julian Erosa, he got hurt early on in that fight, but he was actually landing good punches on Ricardo Ramos too. Like, if you slow it down, he landed, like, I think he had Ricardo Ramos rocked, which is why Ramos was going in for those takedowns instead of trying to land punches on the feet to finish Julian. So congratulations to Julian. Apparently he has a 8-day-old child, and he gets a submission win in the first round 8 days after he has a kid. Good for him. Trey Ogden's looked really good. He's pretty good. He kind of displayed some limitations in his skill set in this fight. He was looking really good against Nicolas Mata when he got disqualified because so in Trey Ogden's last fight, he had an arm triangle on his opponent, and his opponent's arm went limp. The referee thought that he was unconscious, so he stopped the fight, and his opponent immediately got up and was like, "What are you talking about? I'm not unconscious. I just put my arm down to try to limp arm out of the submission," or whatever for reason his arm went limp. And they turned that into a no contest, so that should have been a win for Trey Ogden. And so he was looking really good in that fight, even though he didn't win. And then in this fight, he looked really good too. He was fast. He had a good jab, good kicks. His level changing into Kurt Holobaugh was good. The one issue is his footwork wasn't that great. Like, he was just allowing himself to get backed up to the fence the entire fight and then just sitting there. He wasn't like moving side to side to try to escape him. And also, just as a result, his striking defense wasn't good because he wasn't moving his feet enough. So level changing into his opponent was great. That was like a defensive measure that also allowed him to use his wrestling for offense. But you also want to see some of that footwork. So, like, Trey Ogden, great. He's going to be good at beating these unranked lightweight guys. But he definitely has major issues as he moves higher up the rankings. That brings us to the main card. Fernando Padilla is probably one of my new favorite fighters. He's repping the straw hat Luffy straw hat when he beats his opponents. He just beat the shit out of his opponent, Luis Pajelo, and then submitted him with just a sick Darce choke, like a standing Darce choke. That was sweet. Fernando Padilla is a really entertaining fighter. He's a physical freak for featherweight. What's his reach? His reach is they don't have his reach. Do they not have his reach on Sherdog? Whatever. You can see how long his arms are. He has long arms for featherweight. So he's looking good at the featherweight division. He's a really fun fighter to watch. Keep an eye on him. He just lands accurate punches. And what impressed me the most in this fight was he was able to land punches on his opponent and then also get the submission once he was rocked. So just like the presence of mind to switch from punching mode to grappling mode to submission mode. Yusuf Zalal looked sweet against Billy Quarantillo. So famously, Yusuf Zalal was fighting against Ilia Topuria. Both of them were undefeated in 2020 in Fight Island. And it was a pretty close fight. Ilia's grappling kind of took it over towards the end of the fight when Yusuf was getting tired. But he was just beating the hell out of Billy Quarantillo. He was just like kneeing him in the face, just landing way better and faster punches, just better grappling too. And then in round 2, he just chokes him out. So Yusuf's at featherweight, he's actually going to be kind of a threat to the featherweight division. And also in terms of threats, Peyton Talbot beat the hell out of Cameron Simon to the point where Cameron Simon was hurt so bad that even when he recovered, I still wanted the fight to be stopped because he was even landing punches and kicks on Peyton, but it just looked like totally two different skills. How old is Peyton Talbot? Because he looked way just more mature than Cameron Simon. I know Simon's 23. How old is Talbot? Talbot is 25. Okay, so he's 2 years older. You can definitely tell that he's just more physical and more mature in terms of just picking his shots better, having seemingly more skills and not just throwing random stuff out the window. Yeah, he landed 83 to 33, 50 more strikes, and also just a higher percentage rate too. This was a brutal fight. Cameron Simon is a great fighter, but he is not ready for the UFC. The UFC should release him and say, win another 2-3 more fights and then come back like a year or two down the line, because he's at the bantamweight division. That's one of the toughest divisions in the UFC. It's probably bantamweight and lightweight are the two toughest, and I would say bantamweight's probably more competitive than lightweight. So yeah, he's only 23. He needs more time to develop against, and it's just not good for his career to take beatings like he took against Peyton Talbot. Edmund Shabazian got back in the win column. He did get taken down by AJ, but then he just rocks him and finishes him in the first round. It's a great win by Edmund. I think he is going to be moving up the rankings. Like, yeah, that bad loss streak was just getting like TKO'd by Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Nasruddin Imavov. Just brutal TKOs, but he's still young. I think he's only like 26 years old, and he definitely has really good striking skills, and he's obviously been working on his grappling. AJ Dobson was a good opponent for him to get a win over. Carl Williams versus Justin Tafa. That fight sucked. I'm not even gonna really talk about it. And that brings us to the main event: Rose Namajunas versus Ribas. We already covered it. Really good, entertaining night of fights. Stoppage, shit fight. Pretty bad fight, but it was okay to watch because it had like implications for the rest of the division. Julian Erosa, good fight, and a bite, so that was hilarious. Prelims weren't great, but Erosa was good, and the main card was actually pretty sweet to watch. So, hope you enjoyed the analysis. What is going up next? Blanchfield versus Ferraro. Okay, so that is next week, and there's some pretty good fights on that. Weidman's back against Bruno Silva. Bill Algio's fun. Chidi and Njokuani's fun. Oh man, Sean Brady's not fighting. That's too bad. He's a really good prospect. Nate Landwehr. Anyone else? Julio Arce. Nah, Julio Arce is not that good. Oh, the Pleasure Man, Anton Turkali. Andre Petrosky. He's pretty good against Jacob Malkoun, Robert Whitaker's training partner. Nice. So some good ones next week too. Oh, Herbert Burns, Gilbert's younger brother. So some fun fights next week. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of the fights. Let me know what your predictions were. If you had any good predictions, any good bets. And everyone, have a great rest of your day.